Hey everybody, today's video is going to be a hair Q&A. I only have 4 questions and I am using my phone, so if you see me looking down, it's because I'm reading them. So I'm going to go ahead and pull up the questions and we can go ahead and get started. So I'll be putting the names on the screen for you guys to see. I will not be trying to pronounce them just because I don't want to mess that up. The first question is, how do you keep your hair so healthy? I like changing my hair color every few months, but it's so damaging. So the main thing that I do to keep my hair healthy, even while coloring it pretty much on a monthly basis, is being okay with the in-between stages. And what I mean is, if you are darker, say brunette, and you're wanting to go a lighter blonde or even just get highlights, there are going to be those stages where it might not be exactly where you want it in the first go, but my recommendation is to still wait at least 2 weeks or 4 to 6 weeks if you can between colors, even if you are not where you want to be. Now, that is not me saying that your stylist or whoever is doing your hair should leave it at an orange stage or anything like that. There's always things you can do to tone it at the level it's at. But even if it does not get as light as you want the first go, or it's just not what you were wanting for the first time, I would still recommend to leave it. And as a stylist, I always let my clients know that even though we might not get you there in one try, we will eventually get you there with patience. So that is something that has really helped me with my hair situation. And if you're not familiar with my channel, I had extremely damaged hair. It's probably about 2 years ago or about a year and a half ago, and I am still blonde. Obviously, I actually just got highlights from my coworker yesterday. Now, I do have fine hair, but it is the normal amount. But because I have fine hair, it is really easy to break and cause damage, so I do have to be careful. So I do still try to space it out between 4 and 6 weeks if I can between color services. I will go in with a toner if I have to, or use purple shampoo or whatever toning shampoo I'm using at the time to sort of color correct, but other than that, I really do try to spread out my appointments further, and that has been a really big thing that has helped me, along with not washing my hair too often. I usually wash it once or twice a week, so every 3, 4, 5 days, just depending, so that has helped as well. And sort of going along with that, I also use less product on my hair, so there's not as much of a buildup, so it's easier to lift, and I'm not having to wash it every day because I'm not using a gel and then hairspray and all this other stuff. So those are just a few tips that I have. Even though I do color my hair on a monthly basis, those are things that have helped me be able to get the color I want while still having fairly healthy hair. The next question says, I'm washing my hair every other day. I've used a ton of different dry shampoos, but they make my hair feel disgusting or make it feel coarse. I want to be able to go further without washing it. Any tips? So I do have a video all about how to go more days without washing that I will be linking down below. The main thing is using the right product, so not overusing product like I had mentioned before. That's going to be a big thing that helps out. I've also used a lot of dry shampoos that just were not working too well with my hair, and they do make it feel kind of stiff. So I believe I know what she is saying here. It does make your hair feel kind of coarse and just not very soft or healthy. So I use Batiste dry shampoo. I just get it at my local drugstore. It's the only drugstore product I put on my hair. It's, I believe, around $6, and it works for me. I use the blush, I think it's the blush scent or whatever the floral scent is. I've tried the neon and I like that, and I know they do have brunette formulas as well. And I have actually struggled with Batiste in the past also. And the main thing that I notice when I'm struggling with a dry shampoo, it's mostly because I'm using too much or putting it too close to my head when applying it. So make sure you're going about a foot away, so making sure that the can is not too close to your head and you're not overspraying the product. So I would try Batiste. That is the one I recommend if you have not tried that already. Another thing I recommend doing is using a clarifying shampoo. This will also help to cleanse your scalp, so that when you do go in and use dry shampoo or any other products, that your hair will not have too much of a buildup on it, because that could be an issue as well, as there might just be too much buildup on the hair. So then putting more product on top of that just makes it feel even worse than it did before, and it does make it feel pretty unhealthy when you do have that buildup on your hair. So either a Malibu treatment or a clarifying shampoo, I would look into both of those, and I do recommend both of those, and I also use them on myself. Next question says, I want to learn more about how to cover gray hair without turning orange, pink, or green. I have learned so much from your channel. I am currently using Paul Mitchell the color. I haven't found any channel that explains how to cover gray. Thank you. So gray coverage is something that is pretty hard, I think, to explain over video, because you have to go so in depth with it, and everybody's gray is going to be different. It will depend on the level or the amount of gray. So is it 25% gray, 50% gray, 75%, or 100%? That is the main thing you have to determine, because that will change your formula as well. I know that Paul Mitchell, the color, does have a color chart that kind of helps explain. So if you're not going by what they recommend, then I would try that first and foremost. You also have to take into consideration the tone that they naturally have in their hair, because some people do pull warm colors more than others, or some people tend to turn a little bit more ashy than you're expecting. So you really have to determine the underlying pigment as well as the color that you are using, or the end result of what they are wanting, I should say. I do understand what you mean by turning the hair orange or pink, because with gray hair or any kind of gray coverage, the hair is lacking pigment, so you do need to add that back in. Same as if I were to want to be brunette. Being this light of a blonde, I would need to fill my hair. So essentially, gray coverage is sort of similar, but not quite, if that makes sense. So you have to sort of put in the color that the hair is lacking. So I think that maybe is what you are struggling with. The main thing is, if you are struggling with certain people, I would try a strand test. And that is something that I typically don't have to do, but if it's something you're struggling with, I definitely recommend doing a strand test just to see where you're at. That will help you and your clients just figure out what you're maybe doing wrong. There's always something that we are doing and we're having to learn constantly. So this is everybody that's in the hair industry. We learn as we go sometimes, or with certain clients you have to do something different than you were expecting, and that is just sort of how it is. So I think the main thing is really knowing the color line front to back, and knowing all the ins and outs and what you can and cannot do with the color line, and also knowing your client's hair. And the more your client comes to you, the more that you're going to learn their hair, learn that you can't use ash on it even if they want more of like a neutral tone, because their hair will tend to turn kind of a gray or green or even muddy. Or if somebody wants warmth in their hair but they already have the warm underlying pigments, which has happened to me with gray coverage before. I had a client come in and she said that she liked more of the red mahogany tones, so that is what I did. And she did not really explain to me that her hair really pulled it, which maybe is not the client's responsibility, but most clients, if they know something about their hair, they tend to tell you, which is awesome. I think that's great. And her hair did turn a lot more red than I was expecting. Even with using a neutral or natural in the formula, her hair just really grabbed onto that red, and it was hard to counteract, because then I'm trying to counteract what I just did as well as make sure it's matching her ends. And that's something that you just have to really learn as you go, and we all make mistakes and we all have to learn from those mistakes. And even if they're not necessarily mistakes, we work in an industry where every single person is going to be different. So it's just about learning the color line, learning your client's hair, doing strand tests if you have to, and just kind of going from there. Another thing I do want to say with Paul Mitchell the color, which I have used in the past, they do tend to become warm. So when you say orange or pink, that definitely makes sense in my mind, because I did struggle with gray coverage when it came to Paul Mitchell. And I don't like knocking brands, but that was the main reason I did switch away from using Paul Mitchell, is because I was not happy with the gray coverage that I was getting. And I felt that the naturals and neutrals were extremely warm for my liking as well as my clients. So another thing that you might want to do if possible is try switching color lines, and you may be a lot more happy as well. And the last question says, I want to know what your tips are for having thin, fine hair. I'm in school for cosmetology and I've been insecure because of my thin hair. I'm scared people won't want me to do their hair because of how mine looks. It's exactly like yours, but somehow you rock it. It looks professional and healthy. I feel like mine is just hanging there. Do you have any styling tips and product recommendations? Flattering haircuts for fine hair. Thanks anyways. Love your videos. Well, thank you so much. Thank you for everybody that leaves sweet comments. I always do appreciate it. This is exactly why I have this channel, is to help people out. So she does have a few things that I need to address in her comment. So she says that her hair is a lot like mine. I do have fine hair, but it's a normal amount, so I can get away with it looking a little bit thicker just because I have a decent amount of hair. It's just that the texture itself is fine. So I don't necessarily have thin hair, which I know can be a struggle when it comes to styling. Something that you said that almost made me sad was that you're scared that people won't want to go to you because of how your hair looks. And I don't necessarily think that a lot of people consider that maybe a downside is having thin hair. As long as you're styling it right and it looks presentable, I don't see a concern with most clients. I actually do have quite a few clients that come to me because they have fine hair like mine, and that has helped me build a certain clientele as well. So another thing that I have done is been growing out my layers, and that seems to be helping my hair look a little bit thicker on the ends as well. So instead of bringing up your layers to add volume up at the root, I like to have a little bit of volume at the end. So I am growing out some of my shorter layers. As you can see, it's not too far from the bottom now, but that is something that has helped my hair to look thicker. So maybe consider a slightly shorter haircut with less layers to make it look a little bit more blunt at the bottom, so it does look a little bit thicker. So that is something to maybe consider if your hair maybe looks scraggly on the ends, is just bringing it up to make it look thicker. I know if I were to bring my hair all the way up to here, it would be quite thick looking, although I'm not going to do that, but that is just something to look into as well, as haircuts that are a little less layered if you're wanting more thickness on the bottom as opposed to volume in your crown. Another thing that I have been doing that does seem to help is round brushing my hair and using less product like I mentioned before. That's going to make your hair a little bit more movable and manageable. So definitely look into round brushing your hair, and that will help your ends look thicker and just give your hair a little bit more movement and body instead of just hanging down. I know when I flat iron my hair kind of like it is right now, it looks even thinner, does tend to look a little limp and lifeless. So I would definitely recommend round brushing your hair and using less product if you are somebody that does use a lot. I try to completely avoid hairspray unless I'm doing some sort of updo or style to my hair, just because I feel like that does not help my case either. I think it weighs down my hair and everything like that. So look at the products that you're using. The only products I really use on my hair is a serum and a heat protectant, as well as dry shampoo. That's pretty much all I use on my hair, and that seems to work really well. I can get away with not having to wash it as often, and styling is a lot easier doing that. So that is something else that has kept my hair looking healthy even with the fine texture that I do have. Another thing to consider is changing up your color. If you're noticing that your hair just looks a little bit limp, sometimes adding lowlights in, not even dark, but just adding lowlights will add dimension, which makes the hair appear thicker than it is, just because there's more movement within the hair, just because there's dimension and color. So that's something to maybe consider, is switching up the color even just slightly. You can sort of shift it to basically look how it does now, but enhance the color that also helps to enhance the haircut. So that is something to consider as well. So I hope those tips are helpful for you guys. I plan to do more Q&A, so if you have another question, make sure to leave it in the comment section. I will be happy to help you guys out. If you are new to my channel, welcome. I hope you stick around and subscribe. If you have any video requests, make sure to leave those down below as well. I hope you all have an awesome day, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye, everybody.